Hello and welcome to the first episode of the 8-Bit Debaters podcast. My name is Paddy and we, if you don't know, are Twisted by Gaming. And this is the first of the new name of the podcast. We've been going for a little while. But we've changed the name to kind of center around the theme of what we do. We like to do this debate, which will be the kind of heart of the podcast. And this week that debate is going to be, which is the best ever console generation? First new podcast with a new name. We have to go for the big question. But before we get into any of that, I'd like to do a little bit of an icebreaker, so you get to know everybody. So, Rob, I'm going to come to you in a minute after you played a little tune for us.
The icebreaker.
I fucking you know what? Like, I clicked that so early, and I was holding my mouse for ages, and I thought you were going to ask me the question, and I'd have to hold my mouse through the whole podcast. Thank God.
No, I remembered. So this week the question is, what's the one game that no one can beat you at? That's your game. It's your thing, as you might say. What is it?
It's your jam. For me, I'd probably say the game that no one would ever beat me on is probably the original Soul Calibur on the Dreamcast. That was a game where if we can in the video, it would be really good if we can play a sad a violin whilst I tell this story. But I
don't know why it was Jurassic Park, but deal with it.
It's Jurassic Park. But I basically. During a somewhat weird period in my life, in between year 10 and 11, me and my family found ourselves in between homes, which some people might call homeless, but I like to call it we were in between homes, and we were living in different various temporary homes and all this kind of stuff. And the only thing I had with me was my Dreamcast and a copy of Soul Calibur. It's the only thing I did during a whole 6 weeks holiday was get really good at Soul Calibur. Now, I have to admit there was no online play, so I could never prove I was that good, but anyone that I played, including my brothers and my parents, I always beat. So that's what I'm taking to the grave. No one will ever beat me at Soul Calibur.
I totally allow that. John, how about you? What's the one game that no one can beat you at?
This was a difficult one. It was a toss-up between COD 4, Modern Warfare, the original one. Spent a lot of time on that. But actually, what I'm going to say is my answer is, I don't know if you guys know it, StarCraft. Rob will know it.
I've heard of it.
Yeah, spent a considerable amount of time playing that online. Just freaking brainless with that. Jesus.
And he used to beat me every time, so if we ever play, it eventually got to the point where I just wouldn't play one-on-one with him anymore, and we just kept doing a 2-on-2 online, in which I would turn into the crutch, and he would win.
I like to call it
in every situation.
Nice. Alistair, how about you?
Well, I mean, as soon as you said a game that no one could beat me at, I lose everything. I'm not good at the games.
I set this question up specifically for you, to be honest.
I know, I saw it and I was like, I'm distinctly average at FPSs, but I still suck compared to everyone else. But I went for a game that I was literally playing at the time, and that was Doom. I'm normally up there, and I'm normally disappointed if I'm not top of my team at least, or top of the entire match. And I've spent the past in-game 3 days completing 2 achievements, which I just did a couple of hours ago. So
nice.
I've been playing Doom non-stop for a long while.
We have a series called One Life Review, where we play a game in one life and see how far we can go. How far did you get in Doom? Because you played that, didn't you?
That was quite disappointing. I was 40.
Mr. I'm the best at Doom.
40%, maybe.
You can't even beat the campaign in one life, and you're the best at Doom.
Multiplayer is a lot easier because you can die a lot, but it depends on the things.
That's going to go to the dubious decisions council.
Hey, there was no other game I could have said. I mean,
I would have thought you would have said maybe a Destiny or one of the Halos, because you seem you'd be pretty good at them.
I'm pretty good at them, but I still when I play a normal match, I'm normally up there, but comparatively to everything else, I'd be crap. I mean, to be fair, I carried you 2 last time, Rainbow Six, so I'm probably the best in that as well.
That's fair. Yeah, despite all your obvious failings when it comes to video games, you're pretty good at first-person shooters, so we have to give you that.
It's panic and fire. That's the secret.
Yeah, that's the secret. I really struggle with this one because I'm not good at games either. So I'm going to cheat and I'm going to say Skyrim because I've played so many hundreds of fucking hours of that game. Come at me, everybody.
How can
There's no metric.
Someone at
There's
Skyrim?
no metric. There's no metric. That
Don't worry,
I've got.
Bethesda's been trying to beat people with Skyrim for ages.
Yeah,
Have it on
the reason why
everything.
no one can beat you at Skyrim, Paddy, is no one can beat anyone at Skyrim.
Yeah,
It's a
you worked it
single-player
out.
game.
You worked it out. Well done, Rob. you cracked
You
the
could literally
code,
have
Rob.
said that with any player, with
I
any
know,
game.
but I was the only
that's
one
not
smart
online.
enough to do it. So there you go.
You know what?
That's my.
Minesweeper.
You've
Big on with that.
You've earned a little bit of a credibility, actually. I think.
Oh,
Through
thank
that.
you.
That was smart.
Thank you.
I wasn't smart.
Yeah. Well, I hope that helped you out there get to know us a little bit better and what we're like, cheeky sods that we are.
Did not.
So we're going to move on now to the main part of the show, which is called.
The Master Beat.
So this is the part of the show where we basically have a fight. That's the idea.
Yeah.
This week I'm the judge, so I'm going to throw open the topic, which is what is the best console generation, to the room. Everyone's going to go in turn and pitch their idea for hopefully not too long. But they have a nice succinct pitch that they've been working on all day. And then what we're going to do after that is we are going to let them loose on each other, really, to take each other's ideas down and come up with a winner. And then when we get to the very end, you'll know we're at the end because you're going to hear this little ditty.
Sit your $5 ass down before I make change.
That means that's the end of the debate. That means basically when I call it, when I've decided I've heard enough, as I'm this week's judge. This week, I think I'm going to start with you, Alistair. What is the best console generation? Yep, get your pitch going now. Go.
I'm going to say Generation 6. So, for those of you who aren't familiar, that's the Dreamcast, PlayStation 2, GameCube, Xbox, so, like, running from 1998 to about 2003, if you want to include like when the handheld generation ended, but like to roughly 2005 for the actual consoles. I'm going to say that is the best one because it moved everything over from more of a, like, the arcadey was like the centralized gaming system before then. And that's where everyone did their gaming into like the home as the hub. And then also brought online gaming into the forefront and started to move gaming as a whole from like the shadows of the LAN parties in the dark rooms to actually an event that everyone started to play to more mainstream and created it what it is today. Because the Xbox brought in Halo, Halo 2 was actually the release for that one, and online gaming through Halo, which is an absolute massive hit. The PS2 is still the most sold console in the world. Let's have a look. I've actually written it down. Try there. Yeah.
I can tell. I'm watching you read your notes right now. It's the power of video.
Paper on it. 155 million units for the PS2. That's like roughly
that's
something
many-
they stopped counting.
that's many
like
units.
2014. It's many units. But yeah, it's such a mainstay, and a load of the classics were managed to be brought from the arcade to the gaming system, like because Dreamcast teamed up with a load of like Capcom, Tecmo. I'm just reading all these, and Sega, like from the arcade to the home. So it really brought gaming into a homing system. And
what are some of the
helped.
standout games of that generation then? Like the really, the ones that everyone remembers from that generation? Because I can't remember.
I mean, I'm pretty sure. Did you have a PS2? You must have.
I did. I'm
Yeah.
just fucking with you. I just want to get. I want to get you to.
Do you want me to start listing
engage.
games? I have written all the games.
Yeah,
My
I
piece of
asked
paper.
you the question. Keep going.
All right. I mean, Dreamcast. I mean, like, that was kind of like the lesser one of the generation, but it had Sonic Adventures. Rob's gonna fall for that one, so I've won him over. PS2, GTA San Andreas, GTA Vice City, GTA 3. I think that was all the GTAs. Gran Turismo, there was a load of them. Final Fantasy X, Kingdom Hearts, God of War, Spider-Man, the actual good one. Lord of the Rings: Two Towers, that was also on GameCube in the same
was good.
generation.
That was
great
good.
game. Star Wars Battlefront 2, that was in this generation. I know, and one that they didn't actually screw up, so that also should be like double points for this generation because they actually brought out Battlefront 2 that didn't suck. And then the GameCube had Smash Bros, Wind Waker, Luigi's Mansion, one of the stalwart games of all time. Animal Crossing, so it kind of started off that massive side of things that I've never touched. So, but it's a big game apparently.
Yeah, people like that shit.
I think that's all the big games that I actually wrote. Oh wait, no, Splinter Cell, Fable, Knights of the Old Republic, and COD 2. So kind of like before COD was really this absolute massive force. Generation 6 brought it into the light, so maybe it screwed things up. But it brought all these big games into the forefront and started all the big systems.
So you weren't really selling me to start with, but then when you started to mention all those games, and I started to remember all those games that I played, it was kind of like, actually, yeah, that was pretty damn impressive.
Yeah, after I did some research, like a lot of like the games that we look at now, because we're looking at God of War's coming out again. Generation 6 started it. COD is massive now. Generation 6 brought out COD 2. So there was only one COD before that, and that was on PC, so it brought it to the consoles. And it just started to just absolutely crack down, and Smash Bros. So Generation 6 was almost the start of esports. Smash Bros. Is now a huge esports franchise. And so Generation 6 brought that to the masses.
Yeah, also brought open worlds to the console, like with GTA.
Yeah. And then, obviously
you know what?
the online stuff.
It's a pretty damn good generation.
It set up the base for 7 and 8 to get their success. So anything after 6 is basically just riding off the coattails.
Okay, well, that's a very strong. It's a very strong pitch, and that's pretty good. I'm quite pleased. I'm having all these memories come back to me about what it was like playing those games. So thank you, Alistair, for that very well thought out notes that you read. Teleprompter. Rob, how about you? What generation have you gone for?
Well, I have gone for the generation after ours. I've gone for the 7th generation of video game consoles, which was the Wii, the 360, and the PlayStation 3. I was really torn when we asked this question about which one that I would go for, and I feel like the 7th generation is the one that is really pushed on video games the furthest. And one thing that I really think, and Al touched on it slightly on his point, but I think it was in our generation that it really blossomed was the social side of gaming. Because the original Xbox brought in Xbox Live, but it was really the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 3 where you started to build gaming communities, and everything started to blossom. It was the burst of everything happening on YouTube. It moved. It shifted the stigma of what it is to be someone who plays video games. It moved out from that old school stigma of like the basement dweller who sits in his house or invites his friends over and they play their video games. It was now E3 through this period grew to like the huge event it is now, because there were just more and more people getting into video games. And you can also put in there like the Wii, as much as you can argue about its lack of depth, really did open up like the gates for like a wider audiences as well, with its motion controls and its low a cost of entry. In terms of the games, I mean, like the games that you've got there, like you've got the birth of the Arkham series that started like in that generation. That's something that I think is absolutely brilliant. The birth of the Dark Souls series, you got Dead Space, you got a Mass Effect, you got COD, which obviously Al's mentioned was in his generation, but it was COD Modern Warfare 4 that put COD on the map and brought first-person shooters into the space where it was at the time. I mean, obviously now it's a long time beyond that point, and there's a lot of arguments for what is a good first-person shooter now. But definitely then, COD 4 was your a definitive first-person shooter game of that a generation. You had like the better moving forward with the better Halos. I think a lot of people would argue, and again I suppose it's really who you are, but Halo 3 would probably be the high point of the Halo franchise, which was again on the 360. You've got also two Legends of Zeldas on that a generation. Granted, Twilight Sword was just ported over from the previous generation, but yeah, there was two Legend of Zeldas. You also had GTA 5 and GTA 4. They were both brought out on that a console. Red Dead, you got the sort of growing up with Naughty Dog, Uncharted 1, 2 and 3 and The Last of Us. I mean, I could be here all day talking about the amount of amazing games in that generation, and I agree. The generation before it was also really important, but when you stack them up side by side, the growth that happened throughout of the whole of gaming to be what it is that I love today. This is why I'm taking part in these podcasts and doing these things on YouTube, because that was the part that really transported it for me, and yeah, I couldn't think of a better a generation.
Cool, thank you, Rob.
Yeah.
You know what's really nice about this debate is that it's just bringing back all these nice memories of all these wonderful games that I played back in the day, and yeah, no, very, very, very good. Mm-hmm. I like that a lot. Thank you, Rob. John, how about you?
I'm going to be the weird kid in the corner. It's the Steam Link. I don't even think you can even class that as a generation, although that would have came out in the same kind of time as Rob's one. It's kind of, for me, it's the bridge in the gap between the console and the PC, in a PC gamer. Obviously missed out on quite a few of the different consoles and using of the controllers and access to your front room while you're doing it, rather than being in a little box room like what I'm in now. But I think that that kind of bridging the gap of it is definitely something that they should continue with. Although I believe they may have stopped manufacturing the Steam Link, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, for me, there's once you get it set up, there's pretty much all of those games that you mentioned there available across the board, as long as your PC can handle it. But considerably cheaper. Usually about 20 quid cheaper than what it is paid for on the consoles. Plus you've got the option of the PC only games that you can play downstairs on there. You can use your choice controller on that as well. There's a Steam controller, which is a bit weird because it's only got one analog, one stick, and it's got like a tracking D-pad weird thing on the right-hand side. Never quite got on with it, but yeah.
Oh no.
There's a bit strange. Yeah, I tried. But yeah, you just hook up one of your Xbox or PlayStation controllers and you're good to go. The one thing I must say as well that I think that trumps the two of them is the access to the Steam sales. I don't know how much you've had a look at that before, being console gamers, and I think Rob utilises it a bit, but you get some really good deals for some good prices on it. So yeah, okay. But like I said, weird kid in the corner.
Weird kid in the corner? No, brilliant.
That's what bring you along, John.
We accept all alternative voices on this podcast. That's what we're about.
That's it.
As long as you're white and male, apparently, you're welcome on this podcast.
Oh dear.
Oh dear. Harsh realities. Now I'm looking at us all for the first time. I can, yeah. It really hit me home. Oh, well, thank you, John. That was cool. Interesting, divisive. So what we're going to do now is basically throw it open to the group to just fight it out, basically, and until we have a winner. But kind of an opening question for you all to start this off. Like, what would you define as the most important thing for a console generation to have? Like, is it the games? Is it what the consoles allow you to do? Like, what is it that really makes you think a generation or a platform or something stand out above everything else? And then go ahead tearing each other apart.
The amount of games that's on it for me. Because the Switch is well and good and awesome at the moment, but yeah, the game selection's a bit lacking. One big downside, I'd say.
Mm-hmm. Cool. I suppose for me, the most important thing about a generation of games is I suppose it's the combined, quality of games and the innovation behind it as well. There's two parts of it. So I wouldn't say that one is more important than the other. I'd argue that this generation is a fantastic example. And I think there's no reason why no one's putting the current generation Xbox One, PS4 is that. Yeah, it's had a lot of great games, but what have we seen in terms of innovation? What games are we seeing that are very different from what we were seeing at the end of the generation?
Skyrim in 4K.
There's Crash Bandicoot in 4K.
Yeah, but so I think it needs a bit of both, but you can't just have innovation without great games as well. It's not a simple case of going, if it's got a great games, it's a sign of a great generation. It also needs to do something else as well. That's me anyway. That's where I sit on that question.
I mean, it's what it does for the industry and for the community of well, I mean, I know Rob hates the term, but gamers. It's like sort of the Switch has kind of done quite a lot for the industry because it's now brought consoles into a portable level. So it's always going to be interesting to see how the rivals will respond to that. And then it almost like forces that sense of competition forces the industry in a great direction normally, because Xbox brought in the online function. So then Sony, I mean, I don't know if it was already in production before they knew about that Microsoft were doing the same thing, but then the PS brought out their online function, and now Nintendo have been trying to do it for however long, but it's still not quite right. So I mean, every time like something happens in a generation, there's this big leap. It then falls to the competition to then push forward with it again. So it's this competition that drives, and every generation something different happens, and it's the reaction of the others that makes a generation great. And then
so hang on, Rob, Rob, doesn't then the kind of generation, like Alice's generation, then really set the bar for everything that's to come in terms of like first open world games, like the first this, the first that. Like if it's kind of the innovation, if it's the
I suppose if you're saying it's the first of this, it's the first of that. I mean, you can go back to the early generations. So actually, that's the better generation. It's not a case of what did it first; it did it best. I said. I suppose from my point of view, I looked at the generation that had the highest impact from the start point, or where it started to where it ended, and from the end of the generation prior to ours, from the if you think of the end of the PlayStation 1 and the N64 area, how far had games progressed by the time we're at the PS2 area? Other than getting a bigger. And the graphics being like a bit more better. We still had real big sprawling RPGs and all that kind of stuff. There was still quite a lot of things happening in the PlayStation 1, N64, and all that era. And I just saw the growth from where games were, which was at the end of the PlayStation 2 era. As much as Xbox Live was around. Let's face it, in that generation, games were mostly played a lot offline. You played them with your mates around and all that kind of stuff. Yeah,
and that's why I'm just going to dive in there because I saw my chance.
This is the point. Go for it.
I'm going to cut apart Robert's my chance. Yay.
Yeah, shoot.
This is why I think sort of the Generation 6 had, because it had that balance almost. I mean, your Generation 7 almost went to, it was basically just online. I mean, there were still quite a few.
It wasn't. There was loads of amazing single player.
I'm talking.
It was the generation before it went too far. Oh yeah, it had loads of couch co-op.
Yeah,
as well.
But the Generation 6 still had that intrinsic. They would focus their games around.
Hang on, so your argument, yours had more couch co-op, therefore yours is like the better.
Yeah, it had everything. It had the couch co-op vibe because they basically brought the arcade to the living room. That's what they did. It's how it worked. It's what the Dreamcast was about. It made dreams. It cast them onto the screen.
I'd sort of argue perhaps 2 generations before is when they brought the arcade to the living room. Not your gen. You just said a random quote that fits every generation after like 3. When they decided, actually,
I had to bring in the Dreamcast somehow.
If we sold this console in homes, that means people wouldn't go with the arcades as much. In fact, I'd argue it was actually my generation who kind of, in a way, moved them out the arcades. They don't need the arcades because now the social side of video games, not only was it going around your friends and playing stuff, which if you wanted to, you could still do. I used to go around to John's house plenty of time. We used to play loads of COD Modern Warfare 4 online. We used to actually take each other's Xboxes and get our TVs lined up and make a night of it and all that kind of stuff. And it was just like. And to do that on top of all the great single player experiences that I had on my 360, I'm talking about, I like Assassin's Creed. That's one I can just hammer out that touch mod. That when your games had the open world.
Touch your what?
touch me in the place where certain games can. But no, it was the generation that grew the most out of all of them, and it was the one when you compare it against yours out. Yeah, your one had open world games, but it didn't have amazing open world games that you saw in the explosion like of our generation. And you can say that yours, and to say yours had the better single player experience is just wrong.
But then does the Steam Link then kind of win the social argument because it takes the PC gamer away from his hunched up
Steve,
thing, looking over
John's
the screen
answer,
into the living room.
I'm keeping my arms a distance away from John's answer. I'm avoiding John's answer because to be honest with you, if John's answer is the Steam Link, which is the little thing that you put under your TV, then that we don't need to talk about. But if he's saying Steam, then I'm terrified because Steam, if he's talking about Steam as a whole platform, that's something that's really put a question mark in the whole, generational console thing. Really moved PC gaming forward and did a lot of stuff. So I am yet ready to address John until he starts throwing his weight around.
This is why I'm just staying quiet. So if you guys call me in, I'll just throw the weight and the Steam sales behind it. The cost on that, and plus the HTC Vive. Everything's moving forward with it. You guys burn each other down.
Yeah.
Go for it.
To be fair, if Al's argument is, oh, my generation did it first, I think if John's general idea is PC gaming, then John did it first.
Yeah, but if John's idea is PC gaming, then I think you can break down PC gaming into its own generations, can't you?
So it doesn't work that way.
No, I would counter that actually consoles tend to define the PC gaming jumps. Because every time there's...
PC had it on.
Sorry, say again?
You can say PC had its own sort of jumps, like especially sort of when it went from like more CDs to then it went to Steam, then the Steam Link, and then
Can't you define it by when you buy your new graphics card?
Yeah, but
when you just can't play stuff anymore.
Well,
in respect to
am I right?
Graphics card and with CPU power and with the actual content of the games and their structure, you tend to find one of the biggest examples I found is that towards the end of the life of the Xbox 360 and the PS3, that games have been held back to be compatible with them two on PC. And then as soon as the Xbox One and the PS4 came out, we were away again. And now, like the content, the quality of the games that you get coming out is phenomenal. But we are going to hit a point again where it's going to be held back a bit. Although I believe, I don't think it's too long before the next one will be out. Is it next year or two or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, there's not been any announcements, but you imagine they'll either do another console or another incremental upgrade, so there'll probably be less of that massive distance between consoles and PC. Yeah.
Who knows? I don't have a fucking clue what's going to happen over the next 5 years. It'll probably all be in the cloud.
The PS3 was meant to be, and the Xbox 360 were meant to be the last ever consoles, right? So
yeah, well,
this generation was meant to fail.
6 more at least.
Yeah.
I'm also saying as well, just as an extra point, in the 7th generation, Wii Sports.
Oh damn! Yeah, he went there.
It's true.
I'm just saying.
You brought Nan into the living room playing video games.
Yeah. What did your generation do, Al, to bring the whole family into the
carried Nintendo classics onto the GameCube, like Mario Party, Mario Kart, so the whole family could gather around and
did you honestly ever play a Mario Party with your whole family? Did that ever actually happen, or was that something that Nintendo wants you to think that happened, but actually you did that with you and like your brothers?
My parents don't play video games at all, so they never got involved. So
would they have not picked up a Wii Sports stick though when that appeared and they saw like the box and going, oh, what's all this about, and when you go, oh, go on, now we've found a legal way for you to beat the crap out your children. Did he not take you? Did he not take you up on that offer? I don't know if that's
a good way to a good point to win for your generation.
That's how they should have sold the Wii.
At rugby, so he found a way.
he had his chance.
The arms were swinging everywhere.
One other thing about my generation as well. Sorry, this is something I completely forgot. It's just hit me. Which another one. It's just going to put two fingers up onto Al's generation. My generation was
this is abuse.
had the birth of the indie game scene as well. In your generation, Al, everything had to come through the filter of the publishers all the time, over and over and over again. It was my generation where indie small companies could go about and make great games and push innovation even further and sell it at a reasonable price without the heavy hand of the publishers in there.
But my generation.
John, do you want to jump in at this point as a point for your side of it? Because that sounds like very
I mean,
much.
that is quite. That is a bit steamy, but
a little bit.
at the same time,
My
we had a
generation
part of that.
paved the way for all of this to happen.
Oh come on!
It
Every
paved
generation
the
before the one
way.
before paved the way for the one after it. You can't
'cause
use that as a counter.
pretty much
for
every
point.
iteration of Generation 7 was just the next step of the consoles from Generation 6, because Microsoft released the new console of the Xbox. I mean, it's a PS2, which followed off from the PS1. But that started to build its own success there and started to build its name through the games it released.
Your generation killed Sega.
Yeah, it deserves to be killed
Mine
and buried.
didn't. Fuck you. No, it doesn't. Sega
Death to
was
Sonic.
cool and edgy, and Sony killed them with the PS2, and that happened on your watch, son.
My generation still had Sega. It still had the Dreamcast. It still had Sonic Adventures going strong.
It killed it though. It killed it, and it had.
What happened
Till
to
Sonic
your
walked up and
generation?
just put 2 bullets in the back of the head.
Yeah,
It was a
I
mercy
mean,
killer
fair
at this
enough.
point.
It did have a Sega console, which mine don't. Which I'll admit is a little thing about my generation that yours has. But yours did something worse, which yours killed it. Yours killed Sega. Another different a developer who was making a consoles who could have went forward and offered us that third option. That,
Yeah, but your generation
don't
was
have.
one
I
step
feel
away
like
from
I
loot
feel like we're
boxes.
getting massively off track at this point.
And John, your generation was bad too, for some reason.
Yeah, John.
Yeah,
Yeah, John.
they're responsible for the Afghan war.
John said it himself. John said it himself. He's ruined his own
Unless
argument.
Anything else to say? I think we
Distinguished
might call it
responsible.
there.
Sit your $5 ass down before I make change.
There we go.
There it
there
is.
we go.
Well, thank you very much for
You're welcome. for
2
that
very
insight.
heated debates and 1 very
John.
quiet, thoughtful, come at me, bro.
Smug,
In the
smug
corner.
prick in the corner.
Yeah. So, if this was a fair ruling, and obviously it's not because it's just up to whoever's judging that week to pick whatever they want, it would probably go to John because obviously PC gaming, everything, like, you can't argue with that in terms of everything they do, but I don't have a PC, so fuck you.
Like I said, weird kid in the corner.
You pitched to the wrong judge.
Continue being the weird kid in the corner. No, I'm going to have to give this one, just based on what was discussed, based on my own personal history of video games, to the 7th generation, to my boy Rob. Because Alistair, like, you're putting these games in my mind. You were saying like, like the GTA series, and you didn't say Metal Gear 2, but that was on there. But then literally
I have
every
so many to pick from. I have to
silence,
limit it.
boy, silence.
This is my time.
This is my time. Basically, like all the games, like the reason I keep still playing video games is because of the PS3 generation. Like Rob is right about the innovation. If I could think that I played the first Uncharted game and then 7 years later played The Last of Us on the same console, like just blows your mind how far, with quite a limited piece of hardware. It's not like a PC where they can just keep innovating and innovating. Like it's, a fixed box for those 7 years. Like they got that much out of it is just incredible. And that
That
opened
was
up my
5 with inferior technology.
silence.
I'm going to argue to the left.
That opened up my eyes to first person shooters online. COD 4, fucking Skyrim. So it keeps coming back to haunt me. Elder Scrolls, like Oblivion was my first proper RPG that was on the PS3. So yeah, what a generation that was. Congratulations, Rob. You get this week's
Pudding.
a big thumbs up.
Thumbs up.
Yeah.
Thumbs up.
Oh,
All right.
cool.
Well, I think we'll move on to the last bit of the 8-Bit Debaters podcast. Now the debate is done. It's the news.
Our views on the news.
Oh,
You just point.
jingles.
Don't ever do that again.
I will
Really
do that
get into
every
hand
single
actions
time.
now.
That is my thing now. So we have a couple of items that we're going to chat about on the news today. We're going to start, John, I think you brought this one up, I think, about Metal Gear Survive. Tell us what the lovely people at Konami are up to. It's
Well,
not a video game.
I think it's pretty much the heights of DLC. I don't know what you class it. DLC, is it?
I think it's
Micro-
really
micro-
Microtransactions, that's what I'd
microtransaction.
call it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know so what they're thinking with this one. If you want more than one save, you have to pay $10. You have to for I presume every extra save. That's just fucking retarded. Excuse
It
the
doesn't
French,
make
but
any sense.
Why wouldn't you just make if you're on Xbox, why don't you just sign in as a different user and then just have a different save on that. I just wouldn't pay the £10 or I mean, is it? I mean, I think it was $10, wasn't it? So what, about six or seven
£7 maybe? Yeah.
Yeah, that's just awful, isn't it? Let's be honest.
I think it tells you everything you need to know about Konami. So they've just watched like EA, everything blow up in their face. They're watching. All these companies have like massive issues with DLC and microtransactions and loot boxes, and they're like, "How can we make this worse?" I know.
They'll throw it out there and just go like that. You know?
Exactly. Here's something that I've been playing Banjo-Kazooie recently on my Xbox. 3 different save slots, and that was on the Nintendo 64. And now they're coming on saying like, if you want to play
a meeting. And someone must have pitched this idea, and people must have agreed, and it went up the chain to someone going, "Yeah, that's pretty spot on." Yeah. Who came up with this? Who went, "Let's make them pay for save slots"? I hate having too many. Like, why was that an idea? This is not the innovation we need.
They're like, guys, our game is terrible. No one's going to want to play it more than once. How can we make sure that they just
don't?
Maybe they're trying to kill this off.
I
don't know.
Yeah, they've lived
it makes me think what they're going to do next. Is it like you can only turn right in the game? Do you have to pay to turn left?
Yeah.
That would be amazing.
John,
do you want
to
punch?
developing games?
Yeah. I hope they have
do you want the jump button, or do you want to walk everywhere?
No, you let them pick the control that they get for free.
Actually, Rob, that would actually be the best if we could pitch like terrible, with like the best kind of microtransaction. It would be a sprint button. Because you know how it's terrible when you're just walking really slowly in a game and you're just trying to go anywhere.
Yeah,
we don't walk in video games.
And then as soon as you press the right trigger, like a little screen pops up going, if you want to sprint
the pennies
£1.99 per hour.
It'll be like fucking when you're pumping your petrol, you squeeze it and the price starts going up.
Actually, that's it. This might be the next thing that a Take-Two are going to do with their GTA series is actually make you pay for the petrol.
Yeah,
using the cars. Like you have to go to the gas station and get them topped up.
In Red Dead 2, you have to pay for bales of hay so your horse you can keep it nice and fed so you can keep going. Oh dear! No, this is obviously
we're giving them too many ideas, guys.
I know. We just stop.
They can listen.
We're geniuses, guys.
Another terrible anti-consumer move.
EA, if you're listening, we're all available for hire.
Yeah, exactly. Do you want to add us to your council of evil? The people decide.
Next time we should all wear big robes.
The EA section.
The EA robes.
Surrounded by bags of money.
I love the fact that Al is probably saying that, and he probably does have bags of money.
He's sitting on bags of money. This is
that's what my entire
just pile around him.
You see those mirrors?
What?
Just shiny 50p coins. Really shiny.
Oh dear. Well, on the subject of EA and terrible publishers, let's talk about EA and terrible publishers. Rob, why don't you I know, perfect. Why don't you give us a little bit of kind of where this one's coming from?
I mean, I can give you the smallest nutshell version because I've pretty much not done any reading. I forgot that it was me that put this forward. But yeah, basically, from what I understand, going around the rumourville, more than anything that's actually confirmed or anything, is Disney is considering taking the exclusivity license away from EA. After a recent performance, really, which obviously is not just about their performance round, a Battlefront 2.
And this is specifically the Star Wars license, isn't it?
Yeah, Star Wars, a license that they want to, obviously, that is rumoured that they want to take back and farm out, that they've apparently already had meetings with Ubisoft, I believe, and another publisher that I can't remember from the top of my head around what they could do and what possible options. It leaves the possibility that obviously in the contract that was signed there was some sort of thing that some sort of clause there that if EA weren't up to a certain standard, Disney would be able to move their property about. And it's obviously like you got all the stuff that happened with Battlefront 2, which was supposed to be an apology. Let's not forget for the first one.
Supposed to be their redemption.
Which if you remember
when
the first one come out, it didn't have any content to it. As much as it didn't have any controversy around this. A microtransaction stuff, it just didn't have anything to it. It was a pretty a game and it sounded great, but apart from that, that was it. And then obviously this one's come out. They've put in a little bit more depth, just enough to say they've done more, and then obviously done all this loot box stuff, and then obviously the things around like the single player, visceral games and all that kind of stuff. So it's interesting. I would love to see them robbed of it. Actually, the one franchise that I would love to see robbed from EA would be the FIFA franchise. I would giggle my fucking tits off if that happened. Yeah, we don't trust you with
We'll
this
get all
franchise
that on
anymore.
camera.
Yeah, I would laugh all the way to work and then laugh into my
bowl of Weetos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I get it.
You get it.
Yeah.
Who would you want to have it? Sorry, I was going to say, who would you want to have it then? You said Ubisoft, and I think the other one was Activision, but who would be ideal to go for to have it?
I'm not adverse to Ubisoft. I know on the whole they're not the most brilliant, best publisher in the world, but I still think they'll do it a lot more justice and give us a bit of a variation. Wouldn't be afraid to give us a few, single player, perhaps open worldy sort of things. I'm not sure how exactly that would work in the Star Wars license, but at least I think they'll give it a go. I think they'll have a few misses here and there, and I think they'll probably do a few For Honors and things such as that, which sound really good, but when you actually have them, they're not really much to them. But yeah, I think I'd trust Ubisoft a lot more than I trust EA.
My only concern with Ubisoft is that they really seem to be pushing this move from games to games as a service, and all games always being a service all the time. Obviously, Assassin's Creed Origins was just this incredible single player game that you don't but I hope that they keep making games like that. And Far Cry 5 is also going to be. You can play it co-op.
I think this was my point that you're just saying there. I think they do some of that, but they still recognise that single player games have a place in the market, and they would still serve that. And I think they'd realise that Star Wars is a strong enough a property that you wouldn't need to put all these extra things to get a little bit more money out of it. If they made a really good Star Wars game, they would know it sell because it's a really good.
Yeah, because the Star Wars
sells itself. It's in the name.
Yeah. And it's all what they're going for with Star Wars now is this massive storytelling piece, right? And all these different stories from all across the. We're getting 6 more films after Solo and Episode 9. So,
Would you like to see a Telltale Star Wars game?
Yeah, no, honestly, I would rather see Disney specifically. Thanks, Al. Specifically, pick out individual developers, and just say, we want you to make
for the project.
Yeah, rather than
kind of how
what Marvel are doing. Yeah, which doesn't make any sense considering
because they're owned by Disney.
Yeah, the same daddy. They own everything. But yeah, I wouldn't want Activision anywhere near it because we'll get the Call of Duty version of Battlefront, and then we'll get
Bethesda.
Yeah, I was going to think Bethesda because they've done pretty good. The
Skyrim remastered in Star Wars.
Here comes the Millennium Falcon. It's a dragon. You're back in Skyrim. This is just Skyrim.
Yeah.
Honestly,
might be able to do a few things. Yeah.
I wouldn't want it to go first party at all because these games are too big and they never would. But Sony would probably do the best with it, just with their family of studios in terms of at least single player experiences. But I'd much rather see them go kind of the Marvel route and say, we want Telltale to make a one specific story. Guys, go tell a Star Wars story. I don't know, maybe. Warner, the guys behind Arkham Knight, go and make a. They can do whatever they want, right? That's the point. Is they're moving away from the these 9 episodes with these characters. So, don't worry about it. Just give it to the right people to make the right kind of games. But I don't know. The EA exclusivity deal never really seemed like a great idea.
Give it to Konami.
Yeah.
Just really weird Japanese Star Wars games.
You could
actually get what Hideo Kojima.
Yeah, Kojima. Yeah, you could do it.
What is this game? Everything and nothing.
And why is everyone melting?
Why are all these pictures here?
Stop it, Hideo. No.
Why is it in a dream?
You're still gonna buy it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
we are.
Cool.
John, any final thoughts on the what they can do? Is it savable? Do you think? Like, is it at this point?
To be honest, I was trying to think of what publishers would do justice. I mean, Blizzard are really good at doing storytelling and open world, but to be honest, I don't think they would touch that just because they don't create it themselves. So I go with Bethesda. I think that'd be the best ones with it. For an open world kind of true character building role playing game experience, I think that would be there.
Yeah, that would also
cool.
be buggy as hell.
Guaranteed.
Flipping it, which will be hilarious.
I mean,
CD Projekt Red, right? Would be pretty awesome to do an open world Star Wars game.
I'm not sure if this is true or not, but I heard a rumor that they're bringing out Cyberpunk 2077 this year.
Yeah,
it should be interesting.
That'd be interesting to see.
Keep an eye out for that one.
That would be kind of announce at E3 and then release.
Yeah, I think
Christmas
they might be
time.
doing like a bit of a Fallout 4 on us, because that's what they did with Fallout 4 on it, which is
It's
By the
coming
way,
out.
This
happening.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Do you think it's too late for EA and Star Wars? Do you think this is like the end, the slow decline? Because
I mean,
there's nothing, right? There's Battlefront 2's out.
Yeah.
This was closed.
I think
That game is something.
Respawn, haven't they? They've got Respawn.
Oh yeah, Respawn are doing something, but
Yeah.
I mean,
EA tried to kill Respawn with Titanfall 2, so God knows.
Yeah, I think sort of for the Star Wars franchise, EA have already shot themselves in the foot, then taken off their leg and are slowly just sort of like killing themselves again. So they've like even if they try and sort of drag themselves along, they're always going to have like what they've done in the past following them. So it's never going to be
self-dismemberment. Yep.
Yeah, it's like it's never going to be EA have done all right this time. Good on you, EA. It's like, I don't trust you anymore. What is this game? What is wrong with it? So I think as soon as it gets moved away from EA, people will start to trust the Star Wars game franchise again. But as long as it's with EA, there's always going to be that cloud of, what are you hiding? How am I secretly buying things?
Yeah.
What are you doing?
What terrible thing is coming next? No. Okay.
Oh.
All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for the news. I think we've probably got a couple more minutes. So why don't we run through what everyone's playing at the minute? John, what are you playing?
Today, Age of Empires, the new one, definitive edition that was released. That is as vintage as it gets, like from mid-90s, early 90s.
Nice.
It's an absolute
Yeah, classic. It's decent so far. And GTA 5 trying to kill you buggers with a Chinook.
Wait, did you succeed? Oh no, you missed.
I did once. I don't know who it was, but I squashed them. If somebody was hiding in a bush, I think it was Paddy.
Yeah, it probably was.
You can tell he's pleased because he still remembers it 2 days later. Oh, I remember that time I crushed somebody with a Chinook.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
like riding the Valkyries.
Right, but it was only 2:30 in the morning I would have done that.
Yeah. No, Al, how about you? What are you playing at the minute?
A mixture of
Man
few
who
things.
doesn't
So
play
we-
video games.
Yeah, actually, we've been
Not
playing
Willy.
quite a lot.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, playing with Willy. Yeah. I mean, we did Dead Island for the Dead Island for the stream.
Yeah.
Rainbow Six Siege for the stream. GTA 5 with you lot.
Do it for the stream. Do it for
Um,
the stream.
too much Doom that I now am glad I've stopped.
Okay.
And 7 Days to Die. I have been all over the shop with all these games.
Nice.
I know.
Nice.
A bit of variation.
Rob, how
in my
about
life.
you?
No friends.
Yeah, I've been playing Assassin's Creed 3. I thought I'd play it again after we did that list the other week. I thought, yeah, I did enjoy the combat that much, and I've now got through all of the tutorial, and I've now got my cloaky hoodie thing, and I've got my tomahawk, and I'm having a great time now.
Nice.
So like once you're beyond that point, and
still
yeah,
haven't
the
reached
story's
it.
crap, and some of the missions are bloody awful, but you know what, the combat, it's just if I'm playing that game, I shouldn't play it when I'm by myself because things can get really, really, yeah. So there's that.
I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
And
Move along.
and on next game, please. And I've also been playing Dragon Ball Vita Z as well, which I bought for my sins. It's a game that I probably shouldn't have bought it for full price, but I did because I was like, "Oh, go on then," and for
Go
now-
on then, Rob.
And I'm just not that big person on fighting games, but it looks really cool, and I've decided I'm going to put the hours into it now, and I'm starting to actually win or fights. I'm actually
Yay.
finding that I'm winning more online fights than I'm losing, so I'm feeling
Nice.
pretty damn awesome.
Feeling
about
pretty
myself.
good. Well done.
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah. Thanks.
Yeah.
How about you, Paddy?
I
What you
finished
playing?
Banjo-Kazooie recently.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, which is great. But obviously been playing GTA 5 online, GTA Online with you guys, which has been
Yeah.
a total blast, lots of fun. And I'm also playing
Friends.
Bioshock at the minute, which
Which
if
one?
you haven't played, I highly recommend the first one,
Yeah,
first
first
Bioshock. Yeah, the remastered
Right.
edition on the PS4. It is, it's like, it was such a good game. I absolutely love everything about what they've done in that world. It's très cool.
Very good.
Yeah.
Zang.
Yeah, the thumbs up. No, I give the thumbs up. I'm the judge.
Oh, I apologise.
You put your
My
thumbs
arms are
down.
folded now. I'm
There
gonna
we
be
go.
all fucking, defensive about it.
No.
Well, I think we might call it there for the first episode of the 8-Bit Debaters podcast. I can't say it. It's very difficult to say.
Welcome
The
to my
8-Bit
world. mate.
Debaters podcast. What was that?
What? I said,
Oh,
welcome
yeah.
to my world. So, close the door on the way in.
Feel so much empathy.
Lock the
So
door
much
too.
empathy.
Yeah.
We're Twisted Bar Gaming, if you didn't know. And you can find us, you can find us on YouTube at youtube.com/twistedbargaming and at website twistedbar.com, where we have a whole bunch of different
And on
stuff that we
iTunes.
do. On iTunes, yeah. We're on
iTunes
where,
as well.
where is this podcast? I don't even know.
It'll be on iTunes and all the regular
All
podcast apps.
reputable podcast
You'll
services.
find it there. So if
And some
you
of
want to
the
be hearing us on
not so
YouTube, which
reputable
you can
ones.
listen to us on that, or if you listen to us on that, you can also find and watch a video version with all of our beautiful faces on YouTube.
So,
It's up to you. It's your choice.
Choice is yours. No pressure.
Choice is
just,
yours.
just like and subscribe and share and all that stuff at all times.
Just if you're gonna listen to it in the car, make sure you listen to the iTunes version and not watch the YouTube version.
Yeah, that's dangerous.
We don't want that kind of carnage on our heads.
Exactly. We can't afford another lawsuit.
they say
Thank you
can't
very
have
much.
that. It's delicate.
Thank you very much and have a great rest of your week. We'll be back whenever we're back. Bye.
See ya.
Ah.